evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for a book chat that is sure to bless you, whether you are a fellow educator, parent, friend, and or community member. Tonight's book chat is for all of us. My name is Melody McAllister, and if this is your first time joining us tonight, or you join us every chance you get, I want to thank you. You can catch this live broadcast every Wednesday from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and you can catch the replay on these same channels. I want to take a moment and thank Alice Keeler for giving us her platform for these broadcasts and shining a spotlight on the work of incredible people like author and educator Tamaraletter. And now I'd like to introduce her to you. A couple of years ago, Tamaraletter wrote A Passion for Kindness, making the world a better place to lead, love, and learn. And while that may sound too large of a task to tackle, as I read her book, kindness starts with just a small gesture that oftentimes ripples when others are inspired to act in kindness as well. But the secret is choosing to be kind from a genuine heart. Tamara has spent her life looking for the positive, even when it feels very dark. She is no stranger to hard times, but she is also not afraid to join those who are struggling and shower them with love in the ways that means the most to them. Through her faith and spirit and the help of many in her community in PLN, she has found a way to find healing for herself and others. I want to challenge you tonight to see people like she does, not just faces in a crowd, but unique individuals who are worthy of deliberate acts of kindness, though they may seem random to an outsider looking in. As a parent and educator, if you are looking to build a culture of kindness, her book offers many ideas to begin. Tamara, it is such a pleasure to have you here tonight, and I thank you for the encouragement these last few weeks of instability in my family that you've given us so much encouragement. How are you tonight, and can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you and your listeners today. It's an absolute joy to be able to share my passion for kindness with others. A little bit about myself. I'm an educator. This is my 25th year that I've been in education, and I've taught at the elementary school level, classroom teacher, and I'm currently a technology integrator, instructional coach. So I work directly with teachers and students and help them integrate technology. And it is such a joy to have this job. I love everything I do in my job. It's fabulous. And on the side, I have 3 kids and love spending time with them. I love to read, I love to write, and I really love kindness.
I can tell. And we were talking actually before we read this book that sometimes, and I was a little bit, even me, I can't say that it's outside. When people first see A Passion for Kindness, they think, really, kindness? Yeah. Like easier said than done. But this book is very deep, and we were just talking about this. Can you tell us a little bit about how you created it, how you started?
Sure. Well, the whole idea of a passion for kindness, I think there's always been a seed in my soul that has wanted to be kind to people. I've always cheered for the underdog and, tried to befriend the people that didn't seem like they had a lot of friends. So I think that has always been deep inside of me, but I never really made it an intentional thing in my life until I turned 40. And when I was getting ready to turn 40, I wanted to do something creative and different for my birthday. So I was looking on Pinterest, which at the time was a relatively new platform, and I saw this idea of doing acts of kindness to celebrate, however many years you've been alive. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. Like I could do 40 acts of kindness. And I was talking to my friend Lisa. She was on the sofa with me. And of course, I had that idea, and then she took it to the next level. And she's like, well, what if you wrote stories about everything that you did? And let's make a blog. Because again, this was a while back ago when blogs were the big thing. And I was like, right. I don't even know how to make a blog. What are you even talking about? So we researched how to do it, threw some stuff together on WordPress, and I was off and running. And I decided, I think I love to tell stories, and I think I'm just going to tell the story of every single act of kindness I do, no matter how big or small it is. So like if I held the door open for you, I literally would write an entire story about that moment. It was like when you're in the classroom and you're telling the kids, don't start with this big story, but get way, way down, and find that little watermelon seed. And that's what I was doing with my own writing. And so it started off as a birthday challenge for myself, but I completed it much quicker than I thought I would. And right about the time that I finished, the tragedy at Sandy Hook happened. And I was at a crossroads, do I keep going with this kindness thing, or was it just a gimmick for my birthday and one and done? And after doing 40, I realized, oh my gosh, I think this is why I'm here. I think this is my purpose in life. And I can't stop. I legitimately cannot stop now. So that kept me going. I did acts of kindness in memory of the lives lost at Sandy Hook. And after that, it was just everything. I just steamrolled. And the passion for kindness part, I was always looking for inspiration, ideas that other people were doing out in the world. And you really used it on Twitter as a bookmarking service for myself. I was like, when I found something, I was like, oh, I'm going to retweet this and put a passion for kindness with a hashtag. So that way it was like my own curation system.
Right. And I'm actually,
go ahead.
No, I'm going to put that hashtag up if people want to follow it. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I was using that as a hashtag curation for myself before we had all of these cool tools that would allow you to do curation. And it just steamrolled from there. I just was like, this is me. I'm going to embrace myself. And it's weird and quirky and not really what a lot of people are doing at the time, but it makes me happy. It seems to make other people happy. So why not just roll with it?
I love that. And you even talk, writing and putting your writing out there, it sometimes makes you feel like you're this naked person, and then you put it out. You're like, the world may criticize you. You talk about that in the book. But why do you think that people, really, you haven't had a lot of negative feedback? It's been, I have my suspicion why it's had a wonderful reception. But what do you think? I know I didn't prep you for this, but why do you think that, a lot of people will be they'll be condemned if they talk about the kindness that they do? But why do you think that you're able to do this in such a large scale?
Well, I come from a place of authenticity. I'm not here. I don't have any self-serving need to share what I do or to make a profit off of what I do. I truly just want to share my story. I just want to tell people what I'm doing, how it impacts me, how it impacts other people. And I truly believe that it matters and it makes a difference. And if we have an opportunity to make someone else's day better, why wouldn't we take advantage of that? Why wouldn't we go out there and do it? And so there's absolutely fear of backlash. There's absolutely the worry that a crowd of people are going to come after me and tear me apart. But you know what? That's a chance I'm willing to take, because I'm just living my life. I'm just doing my thing. And for some people, they think of kindness as something that you should do in secret and that you shouldn't talk about it. And when we bless someone else, it should be hidden away. And I think that's great. If that's what you do and that makes you feel great and that's how you want to work your area of kindness, my golly, please go, keep going, don't stop, But then there's other people that want to lead a life of kindness and they're not sure how to start, or they feel alone in the journey. Like there's nobody else that's weird and quirky like them. And it's hard. It's hard to be kind. People oftentimes I'll see people using kindness as a synonym with the word nice. And it is not the same. It is nowhere near the same. Kindness has attributes of being nice, but it is hard to be kind because you have to be brave. You have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to be courageous because you don't know what the reception is going to be, either for the person that you're being kind to. They might not receive it kindly. Or if you take it to the next level and you start to share your stories, there's people out there that will try to rip you apart and tear you down. And you have to be strong enough to say, I'm better than that. I don't need that. And I can step away from that and just keep on doing my thing.
Yeah. Well, I love that you said that, because that's exactly what I think. It's just such a genuine message. And like you said, about authenticity, it really is amazing. And if you are looking, we're going to go into this in a little bit, but if you're looking for ways, like if you're an educator and you want this to be a part of your classroom culture, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But I'm so glad that you're watching. But yes, it is such a wonderful book. And you talk about cultivating. And I love the acronym that you used in the book. And then it was Julie Woodard. How do you say her last name? Yes. And she has great images that she's put in the book. But tell us about this. I really like this acronym, Cultivate.
Oh yeah. So as I was coming, I've used this acronym for many years with kindness classes that I do with teachers. Again, I'm an instructional coach, so I work directly with teachers. And anytime I can do a lesson where we integrate technology, that's kind of the core focus of my job. But at the same time, I have passions too, and I want to do things with my passions. And so I had approached another educator, Lori Cross, a 4th grade teacher, and said, hey, I've got this crazy idea of doing like a year-long initiative on kindness. Like, what are your thoughts? And she was all in. And so we took this word cultivate, and I love the word spread out because the C and the E are like bookends, you know, of kindness, because the C represents compassion and the E is empathy, and everything mixed in between is everything that you need to really be a kindness cultivator, right? Somebody who really gets in. And I live in a semi-suburban / rural area. Like, we're mostly known for Hanover tomatoes. We have lots of farmers, farm stands and stuff. So the idea of cultivating something in the ground and growing something from a seed is something that is very common in the area that I live. And so that idea of cultivation is something many of our students have heard before, and they might be familiar with their families. And so taking each of those letters, that actually guides our year-long idea of kindness and our initiatives and things we do in the classroom, because we take time to teach the students the value and the importance of not just being nice, not just saying kind words, but going deeper and actually understanding things from other people's perspectives and having to take a stand and, you know, accept people that are different than us, or that might have different thoughts and opinions than us. You know, how do you do that? And how is it okay to have complete differences, but yet still be kind? You know, so we dive into all these rich topics. And so as I was writing the book, I knew this had to be a whole section of the book. And I love the fact that when you write a book, you can tell your story any way you want. And I knew when I told my story, I was like, I want it all. Like, I want pictures, like I want photographs, I want artwork, I want sketch notes. I didn't even know how to sketch note at the time, but I was determined to learn how to do it. And so I was, you know, gathering, curating all these amazing people who are already doing these things. And I saw Julie's work on Twitter, and I reached out to her. Hey, like you, and she said, oh, would you like me to make you a few things? And I said, oh my gosh, I would love that. And then I said, but I have this idea. And I told her my idea about the cultivate. And in fact, let me see. I think I have it here.
I know. I was going to say, I'm trying to find it too. Go ahead.
There you go.
I'm going to make it large. Yes. Hold it. I'm going to make you large.
Okay.
Oh, switch over. All right. There we go. Yay. Yes.
So there it is, nice and big. And of course, if you have the Kindle version of the book, it's in color. This is obviously black and white. But I told her, I said, you know, I love this idea of dandelions. Dandelions are my son's favorite flower, and I love the idea of blowing them, wishes, you know, and how you just, that hope for a better future. You know, I'm hoping for something good to happen in the future when you blow a dandelion. And so she was so great. And you know, I said, I've got lots of little children and people in my world that are different colors. And so she was so great to make a little boy that represents, you know, some of the boys that might be in my classroom. And, you know, it's oftentimes we think of kindness, and historically we think, oh, it's a girl thing, you know, oh, it's a girl club, it's what the girls do. And I am breaking down the barriers. No, kindness is multidimensional for everyone and anybody. So I love the way that she was able to capture my heart for cultivating kindness in that one image.
I do too. And I also like you talk about in the book where you gave your students, you know, like seeds and soil and all the ways to grow. And you used it as an image to share, like, you know, like this is something that doesn't happen in an instant. It's something that you cultivate, you know, and you talked about, you know, hard soil and just, it was very meaningful and just so special. And then I thought it was also funny how I share this with you. I can't grow anything in real life.
Me neither. I can grow kindness. Kindness, that's it. That's the only thing I can grow.
And that's what matters. That's what matters. But I really did appreciate that. Every week when I have somebody on, I love it when the authors will read aloud something that they wrote. It's so special. And so one of the stories that I really liked was the story of Shelby Ann. So I'm going to invite you who are watching, and you can comment, and we would love to see or hear your thoughts. But so Tamara is going to gift us with this from her book.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to read to you, for those of you that, if you have the book, if you'd like to follow along, it is on page 53. And the story about Shelby Ann is actually my 100th rack or random acts of kindness. So I had just finished 40. And as I started on this page, it said, after completing 40 racks for my 40th birthday and 26 racks for Sandy Hook, I kept the momentum going by implementing more racks and sharing the stories behind them. As I approached my 100th random act of kindness, I wanted to make the milestone moment extra special and meaningful. I decided to take flowers to my Grandma Payne. It was a beautiful day for a drive, and I rolled down the window to enjoy the breeze blowing through my hair. When I arrived, the birds sang their songs of spring as I gathered my flowers. It was a short walk from my car to my grandma's final resting place in the small church cemetery where several of our family members are buried. I stood for a moment in front of her granite headstone, reflecting the bright sunlight, and thought of all the love she had shown me through the years. I split the bouquet of flowers in two, one for my grandma, the other for Shelby Ann. Shelby Ann was a 3-year-old girl who died in a house fire years ago. My grandma and I heard about the tragedy on the news, and we were surprised to discover she had been laid to rest right beside our family plots. We adopted her into our cemetery visits, making sure to bring her flowers too. Although my grandma passed away almost 2 decades ago, I still place flowers on their graves, sweep the dirt and residue off the headstones, and pick up any stray twigs or leaves lying nearby. I take a moment to say a quick prayer of thanks, knowing each life had a purpose, no matter how long or how short. And there's a picture of me in my grandmother's grave, and there's a picture of Shelby Ann's headstone as well. I had never seen anyone visiting Shelby Ann's grave, and the flowers and trinkets we occasionally left always seemed to go undisturbed between visits. As I grew older and became a mom myself, I couldn't fathom the unbearable pain of losing a child at such a young age. Taking flowers to a gravesite seemed the least I could do. After completing that 100th random act of kindness, I told the story of my grandma and Shelby Ann and shared it with the world. Never in a million years did I expect to receive this response in return. I just came across your blog post by chance and would like to tell you that that grave belongs to my sister. I was about 1.5 years when that fire broke out in my parents' trailer and took her. I have never been to the grave myself, and my mother finds it too painful. I was very moved while reading this that someone, a stranger, would put flowers on a grave of someone they didn't know. I just want to say thank you. I am just beyond words right now, but thank you, Dana. In that moment, I caught a glimpse of the power of my kindness story. Dana's sister's life mattered so much that complete strangers tended to her gravesite for almost 30 years with no fanfare, no accolades, just to be kind. If I hadn't shared my story with the world, Dana never would have known how much her loved one meant to us. To this day, I still don't know how Dana came across my blog. I've never met her, nor her family, but for that one moment of serendipity, the stars aligned perfectly for kindness to be shown to those who needed it most. And that's the story of Shelby Ann.
And that's when my husband walked in and I was crying. So it's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And, you know, it seems random, but it's not really. It's deliberate, and it's how everything happens for a reason. You know, sometimes we feel that way. You know, it's not necessarily something that everybody believes, but just that you were able to do that. And this is what I think illustrates the difference between nice and kindness in a lot of ways, because 3 decades you've been doing this, and it wasn't for anybody else to know. It was just to honor somebody's life. And you chose, and your grandma chose, to not be judgmental about a grave that nobody seemed to be visiting, because you knew that it was just painful. And I just think the fruit and the love that came from that, and the whole story is just kind of miraculous, really. Like you said, serendipity. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure, thank you. And that's the thing with kindness, when you start doing acts of kindness, and you're right, some of them are completely random. They just happen. There's a moment, it all works out. And there's other acts of kindness you do deliberately, but it isn't until you start to talk about it and you start sharing your stories and you start conversing back and forth and you start realizing, wow, there is a connection. We're all connected in all these multitude of ways. And when you get a glimmer of the impact you can have on another person, it is life changing for that person, for you, for other people that then hear the story again and again. And I just feel like kindness inspires. I mean, if you are telling me a story and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea, I think I'll try that too. And then I'm blessing someone else and you're blessing someone else. And we're scattering all these seeds, just like the dandelion, we scatter all these seeds out into the world and we never know where they're going to land or how they're going to grow, but they scatter.
And sometimes we get to find out how they grow over time. So I love that so much. Before we go, if there's somebody watching and they may be a parent, they may be a grandparent, they may be an educator, if they want to start, like maybe they realize, right now we are in a very, very divisive culture. It's all around us and everything seems to be politicized. And sometimes just stepping back out of that and saying, that's just too much. How can I bring people together? I think this is a book that is so necessary right now in the times that we're living, but honestly, probably in any age that we're living, it's necessary. But what can teachers do, educators, parents, what can they do to start this, to grow this culture in their classroom or home?
That's a great question. And, I think it starts with making a decision that you're going to start. Like, don't hesitate, just dive in. There's no wrong way to get started. Just starting a conversation with your students, with your staff members, with your community on what does kindness mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? When you say the word kindness, what's one word that pops in your head? Having those introductory conversations are great because you can kind of see like how deep are people really thinking about kindness? Where is it kind of surface level? With kids in school, we start the year with kindness journals. We just hand them a composition notebook and we say, ta-da, it's your kindness journal, and we have them take 3 different pages in their book, make 3 little sections. And the one section is kindness I see. And we leave it blank, a couple of different pages so they can fill it up throughout the year. Kindness I see. The second one is kindness I receive, which is, they're pretty good with being able to jot down kindness they receive because they think about birthday gifts or that, that's the one we're always kind of more self-centered. So we tend to think about, oh yeah, me, right? So that one that has a section, but then we have that last section, which is kindness I do. What is it that you're doing to make this world a better place? How are you putting good in the world? And we know that you've got to start somewhere. So why don't you start with what you know? Why don't you stop and be an observer and see? Just take a moment and just see, is there kindness around you? What can you pick up on? Are you paying attention to the negativity and not focusing on the positive things? And I know that there's a lot of criticism out there for the toxic positivity. That's a phrase that's being tossed around. And a lot of people don't understand that what you might view as toxic positivity might be literally my lifeline right now. Because if I don't hold on to that one little level of joy, that's the last string I've got, And so we're so quick to judge and we're so quick to make assumptions. And we're not always as open to starting conversations about what we do, what we feel, assumptions we make. And so when we get to the topic of kindness, let's talk about it. Let's have conversations. And then from there, you can dive deeper. If you want to do kindness lessons, there's a plethora of ideas throughout the book. You can do kindness projects. We have passion projects where we literally give kids money and say, go out and make the world a better place. You got $10. What you going to do? Like, go for it. Anything you want to do. And, and it's great because it's like a project-based learning, because they have to figure out, oh, wow, I really can't get a lot of stuff for $10, all the things I really was hoping to do. But it teaches the kids so many different skills, in doing that. Or maybe you just want to have kids just, jotting down on little strips of paper. I was sharing this with a school district in Texas. You can take little strips of piece of paper and just write down an act of kindness and then fold it up and staple it and make your little chain links. Can you cover your classroom with kindness before the end of the year? And is it okay?
I like that.
Is it okay that you did an act of kindness and I did the exact same thing for a different person? Like, is that okay? So have those conversations about what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how can we stretch it? How can we do other things? And who are we being inclusive? Who are we blessing and why? And who's getting left out from our blessing? That's where you get diving into the rich, deep things. You can have kindness clubs. You can have the whole class. You can have the whole school. But definitely shouldn't be just a one-day event. If you're celebrating World Kindness Day in November, rock on, go for it. But don't just stop there. Keep going. Let that be the jump start and the spark that lights your kindness initiative for the whole year.
I love that. And I am definitely, that's actually the day before my birthday. So I felt like, oh my gosh, this year I'm going to do something really big for that, like with my family. I mean, not big like for the world, but big with my kids. There were a lot of ideas that you gave that I knew that I could just do with my own kids. And I love that you talked about toxic positivity, because that is something that's been on my radar just because of the culture that I grew up in. And I think the difference is just that when people say something to you and they expect you to get over it and just move on. But something that I found in your words in your book is just, it's not about just saying something and moving on. It's meeting people exactly where they are. And you found a way with people in your community, in your school, to bless people in some of the darkest times, whether they were grieving, they were sick. It's like, what makes it not toxic is that you're with them and you're going through it. I think a lot of times people say things and they're just like, it's like people when they say, I'm going to pray for you, but they really don't pray for you. They're just saying it, because we know the difference between what is real and genuine and what is not. And so I love that. I really wondered, because I am kind of critical about some of these things. I wondered how I would receive this, and I received it very well. I loved it because it came from a true heart. And I feel like I'm a better person for reading it. And it really meant something, especially in this season of my life where there's things going all over the place. It made me more grateful for the friends. And I don't know if Alice is watching, just for her, like she's putting our family up right now so that we don't have to pay exorbitant hotel fees. And it just makes me so grateful for the love in my life. So I thank you. And I love this book. It is not anything toxic at all. And before we go, I always ask every author, is there anything else that you would like to share before we say goodbye?
Well, if that's the question, we could be here for another 6 hours, because we have so many things to share. But I think if there's anything I would just leave the listeners with is, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace to be authentically you, whatever that may be. And when you encounter people that might be weird and quirky like me, who have a passion for kindness and are doing some things that maybe you're like, okay, that's different. Just ask them questions. Find out more about their passions. Find out why they're doing the things and what makes them different and why are they passionate about those things. Because you never know, it might spark a passion in you too.
It's true. It's true. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. And thank you, Tamara. This has been such a wonderful talk. I appreciate you. And just if you follow me at all, I'm going to take a hiatus because life is so crazy for me right now, but we'll come back as soon as we can. And I just thank you everybody for tuning in, and have a very blessed evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.